All right, today, guys, I've got to disagree with a creator that I've long watched. A recent take that they had in one of their videos. It just doesn't sit with me right. I really don't agree with this take he has, and I feel like it's worth telling you guys. And there's been some other takes that he's had recently, too, that I've struggled with. I think it's maybe finally time to talk about it. I do want to start things off by saying I don't want this to be a negative channel where I'm just critiquing a bunch of other people all the time. I think there are other places for that if that's your thing. But I do think sometimes a healthy amount of criticism for other people, really other people's ideas, can be good. This should be a space where we feel like we can openly discuss our opinions and our ideas and disagree with one another respectfully. I think that's missing in a lot of cases. A lot of times people are not disagreeing respectfully. You can do so in a respectful way and explain your side without calling somebody else names and making fun of them and those sorts of things. So the creator is Nostalgia Nomics. He released this video really recently, today actually, that I'm filming this, but this will come out later. Pokemon investing cheat code, literally that easy. So I want to start off by just saying, I really like Nostalgia Nomics. I know some people really hate his guts. Some people practically worship the ground that he steps on. He's another creator. He's got another opinions and other ideas. I've learned very valuable things from him over the past year and a half or more. It's been about over a year and a half that I've watched his content. One of the greatest things that I think that he's done for me is just helped me have confidence in buying sealed product and investing in it. Back when the market was not as strong and a lot of those sealed products were pretty cheap and they didn't look like good investments, right? Which I think has just been a good thing to think about, is that a lot of times your best investments are when they are cheap and when people don't want them. But they need to have the fundamentals that you could see one day people wanting those for more than they want them now, right? So really he's been, in my opinion, kind of a cheerleader for the Pokemon hobby and for the Scarlet and Violet era over the past year and a half. And during the whole bear market phase where you're getting Scarlet and Violet booster boxes for $90, $100, sometimes even down to $85 for Scarlet and Violet base, to his credit, he's one of the few content creators that's really pushing that. Well, him and Rudy and some of these other bigger investment channels are saying, hey, one day people are going to want these, right? But I don't think anybody could have predicted it would be so soon, that the prices would jump up so quickly, especially for Scarlet and Violet. So anyway, I just want to give that caveat. I do appreciate a lot of his content, but lately I feel like in the past 3 months, since the market has gotten really hot, some of his takes I've really struggled with, and I don't think that he's being sensitive enough to collectors. So, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I'm really a collector first, but I also do enjoy the investing side. I'm one of those people that enjoys finance and macroeconomics and numbers and money and stuff like that. That's definitely a part of what I enjoy in this hobby, but it's not the sole focus. I get very nostalgic to these cards. I have a pretty extensive collection of cards that I just love. And that's really how I got into all this. That's the root and the core of my interest. The investing is another aspect that I enjoy. But I feel like lately he's primarily just investor focused, and over the course of time has become less and less collector focused. He really never was collector focused, but he's become even less collector focused, if that makes sense. Probably not saying that very well. Let's watch this little clip. I want to talk about it.
Prismatic evolutions. I know. Pokemon's going to print it into the ground, Alex. I will not buy this set unless it's MSRP. Alex, come on. Bro. It's $140. You know that's overpriced. You know that is not the same investment opportunity that it was at $50 or $100 in ETB. Maybe not. I do remember one little set, though, that really reminds me just of Prismatic evolutions. Remember Hidden Fates?
So he goes on to talk about Hidden Fates. Here Hidden Fates is $290 in ET. Well, I think it's a little less than that. It's $286. So it's essentially double the price of the Prismatic ETB. And that's the point that he makes, is that over the course of 5 years, Hidden Fates essentially doubled, even if you bought it at $140 when Hidden Fates first came out. Now, look, what he's saying is true. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that it was like a smart place to park your money, right? Because Hidden Fates came out the gate really hot. Pokemon reprinted it. It dropped in value quite a bit. And then, slowly rose over time, and it had points of stagnation. And so there was a better time to get into Hidden Fates than when it was at $140, right? There was a better time when Pokemon printed more. And I think this is my problem with Prismatic is like Prismatic right now is very expensive at almost $140 in ETB for a set that just barely came out, right? Like this set just came out in January, guys. It's where I'm filming this the last day of March, but here we are just at the doorstep of April. This set's way too brand new. It already had a release schedule announced by Pokemon that would take about 6 months. Like it would come out in waves. There's these product waves that Prismatic was set to release in. And so we haven't even seen Pokemon's response to Prismatic yet, other than the fact that they've announced that more products coming and that they will address the shortages. I think we should trust them on that they will address the shortages, and we will see a lot more product in the future. Now, I think, Nostalgia Nomics wants to make the case that, hey, over the course of the long term, 3 to 5 years, this is going to go up. So it's a good investment. But I still don't think that necessarily means that like that's the ideal place to put your money. And hear me out for a second, because in theory, you should go into buying an investment with the idea that you're not going to sell it for X amount of time. Like you don't need the money. It's not emergency fund money. It's not your savings. But life has a weird way of being very different than we think it's going to be. One day you might be doing well. Your job feels very secure. You feel like you have plenty of savings. You feel like, yeah, I'm never going to need that investment money. Well, next thing you know, maybe you lose your job. Maybe a recession hits. Maybe wages go down. Maybe, who knows? There's a variety. Maybe you have some major health issues in your family. There's so many things that can happen in life that could make you have to prematurely sell your investments. It's just possible. Now, which would you rather do? Buy up here at 140, have Pokemon reprint. Now it drops down to maybe it's 80 or 70. And then what if you get forced to sell at that point, right? Like buying at 140 has a lot of downside risk because that product can drop a ton. MSRP is what, like $55? So it's like 2.5 times MSRP is the current price. So if Pokemon targets trying to get it closer to MSRP, and then something happens where you need to sell that investment, even if you didn't initially plan on it, but you need to sell it, well, now you just lost a bunch of money. But if you wait instead until that product reprints, until it gets closer to MSRP, until it gets down to earth, that seems like a much safer and better investment to me. The downside risk is lower. That's a better time to get into the product. If you need to sell your investment, you're not going to lose your shorts as bad, right? I think that's a pretty important thing to think about. Recently, and this is not financial advice, please go talk to your own financial advisor. Don't listen to me. But recently I bought Tesla stock because like Tesla is down like what, 35, 40%, or at least it was recently when I bought it. I don't check the stock market every day. But I looked at it and I'm like, I believe in the long-term value of that company. I think there's a lot of value there in what they're doing, what Elon's doing with electric cars. And, I don't necessarily think it's quite the future that he thinks it is, but I still think that Tesla is going to continue to grow and more people are going to want those vehicles. They're very well made. I believe in the brand, right? I think the brand is going to do well. And so when the stock takes a 40% haircut, it's like, okay, feels like maybe it's a good time to get in. Whereas when the stock is at an all-time high, I'm like, I usually don't buy things at an all-time high. I just realized I probably should show you my face a little bit more since we're not watching the video right now. I usually don't like to buy things when they're at an all-time high, or at least when they've sharply increased in value. And I do think the stock market in a lot of ways has seemed overvalued to me for the past couple of years. But that's a whole nother just subject. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. Go seek out your own information on that. But again, when I see a stock like that in a company I believe in take a huge haircut, I'm like, hey, this seems like a good time to get in. Well, similarly with this, with Prismatic Evolutions, 140 an ETB on a set that just barely came out. I mean, guys, we're talking it just barely. I know a lot of us that watch Pokemon YouTube content all the time, we think that like, oh, Prismatic came out forever ago. Guys, it just barely came out. Like Pokemon has another like 2 years to print the heck out of this thing. 2 years. I mean, look how much Crown Zenith they dropped over a course of 2 years. Even Evolving Skies got a lot more over the course of 2 years. And he doesn't, what Alex doesn't say in this video, but he's kind of said before in the past is it's like, well, look at 151. 151 never got its ETBs reprinted, right? Now, Pokemon still could reprint the ETBs, right? But for a long time, Pokemon 151 ETBs pretty much flatlined. They stayed low for a long time, and then they slowly started to increase, and now they're very expensive. But just because Pokemon did that with 151 at that time with those market conditions doesn't mean that they won't reprint Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, right? So there is a chance that you could miss out on Prismatic Evolutions ETBs. This could be it. But isn't the risk higher that Pokemon will print more of them and decrease the price of them and you'll lose money? I mean, I think it's all a risk and reward thing. That's what you have to consider. When you are making investment decisions, you have to weigh the risk. And to me, the risk is higher that you're going to lose money from right now over the next 2 years than if you would just wait or put your money somewhere else, right? So I think this is bad advice to tell people to buy this right now. 5 years from now, you're right. You'll probably make money. But again, what if you need that money in the middle, in the next 5 years, and you didn't think you would, but what if you do? So it's still like buying at the top is concerning. Now, an example of a time that I did buy more at the top, I guess at the top is Evolving Skies. So I bought Evolving Skies booster boxes around $400. And that was kind of a little nerve-wracking at that time. However, the set was out of rotation. Like it was, I don't know if it was exactly out of rotation. It was past its like 2 year print window. So it was very, very, very unlikely that Pokemon was going to reprint anymore. Right. So I really felt like no more is hitting the market. People keep ripping this. I think I feel good about this set long-term. And so I bought it. That is very different buying after something is no longer in its print window than buying Prismatic Evolutions, which just came out 3 months ago. I just don't think that this is a good take. If Prismatic Evolutions, ETBs were MSRP, great. That's a great investment advice. But I think at the current price point that they're at, it's a very dangerous move. So I've said too much, but in my opinion, I disagree with him on this. And again, it's all in respect. It's not meant to be, hate. I'm not trying to hate on Alex. I just don't think that this is a great advice. I think someone in his shoes that probably has a lot more capital to throw around, he doesn't necessarily care if he loses on one of his small investments over the course of the next 5 years. But I think most people that are watching this content don't have nearly as much money as he has sitting around to buy sealed product. And if they're hearing this advice and going out and putting a significant percentage of what they own in this, I think they can lose money over the next few years if they need to sell. So just my take. And while we're on the topic of Nostalgia Nomics, I do want to cover another video. He had this one recently. He got a lot of hate for this. I don't want to go too in depth with this, but one thing I've been a little frustrated about, and I thought of this video, this Let's Talk video that he got a lot of negative press about, because while I was watching this video, he came out today and he's telling us about buying Prismatic Evolutions. I'm feeling that like, okay, he's kind of disconnected from the normal person. Like if he's giving us advice to buy Prismatic Evolutions ETBs, I feel like he's disconnected from the average collector and even really the average like investor. And that's what this video really is all about, is he's kind of disconnected in a lot of ways. Now he sees it as that he made this video to try to tell you, hey, life's hard, but you got to make the best of it. And I think if he had delivered it that way, he would have had a much better response to this video. but he didn't really deliver it that way. So let's look at a couple clips here, and I want to kind of talk about them.
Hobby. There's nothing new. Stop freaking out that for a minuscule amount of time in the last 10 years, it's happened once during around COVID, it's happening one time now with a couple sets, thinking that the entire hobby is flawed and there's no opportunities and it's never going to be the same again. If that is all it takes for you to lose all of your confidence in the hobby and in Pokemon, maybe this wasn't for you after all. Maybe you should just go back, clock into your job, and just leave this whole hobby for good. And if you're just a hobbyist and you're...
Wow. Ouch. I think this is something that Nostalgia Nomics sometimes, or Alex, I'll just call him by his first name. I think sometimes he has a little bit too much of this mentality of it's like us versus them, or like kind of a little bit too much of an antagonistic mentality to things. Like, I don't think that you should tell somebody that, hey, if you're freaking out right now because the hobby has become so expensive so quickly and you are having these feelings that maybe the hobby's ruined. I mean, okay, yeah, you could say that, okay, people are being a little over dramatic, but I also understand like people's frustration, right? It's very frustrating when you have kind of a status quo. You save up for each new set and you buy a little bit and you get to rip some, or maybe you save some sealed, or maybe you rip a little bit of the cards and buy the singles. Like, you're used to a flow, and all of a sudden that gets completely broken because the market explodes, the prices soar, scalpers enter the hobby and make it worse. Like, there's a lot of reasons why people are very frustrated right now, and for good reason. And it's okay for people to get on and vent. And I think that's a lot of times what they want. They just want a place to vent their frustrations. So telling them that, hey, if you're freaking out right now, you probably shouldn't be in this hobby. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, he really framed it like if that's enough to have you lose faith in Pokemon. I was like, look, no one has to even have faith in Pokemon to enjoy this hobby. So telling them they should leave, I don't think is fair either, right? You don't have to have faith in Pokemon to collect Pokemon cards or to enjoy the hobby. Like, you don't have to think that Pokemon cards will even be worth something in the future to enjoy it. Now, I think they will, which is why I think that it is investable, but that's neither here nor there. The people going and buying packs, collecting cards and putting them in their binders right now, they could think that the hobby's cooked, and they still have every right to be in it. Right. So there's a little take right there. Let's watch another clip.
Because you don't want to collect any other set out there. It has to be just the newest one. And if that's not at a price point that you deem affordable, then all you can do is complain. Find something else for a while. Come back in 6 months. Maybe it'll be better then. Like, why put yourself through that misery and just get online and complain about it every single...
No, he makes a fair point right here, right? Like, yeah, maybe it is a good time for some people to take a break because it might be miserable for them. I don't really have a problem with this part. I think that makes sense. If you're frustrated right now and it is taking you away from the enjoyment of the hobby, it could be a really good time for you to take a break and come back when things settle down. I don't think there's a problem with that. But let's watch on.
Single day. That's no way to live, guys. That's no way to live your lives. Because all of us that are enjoying the hobby, that are successful in our businesses, our careers, that people that can't afford packs, we don't care. We're not listening to you. You can scream it from the mountaintops as loud as you want. You can leave it in every video. No one cares. No one cares, right?
Wow. Ouch. No one cares. We don't care. Those of us that are successful with our businesses have stacks of Pokemon cards behind us. We don't care. I don't know if he really meant to say that or not, but it did not come out well. And it wasn't sensitive to people. I think there's an element of humanity that we need to have. Like, this is one thing I've been kind of concerned about the investing channels. While I do like the idea of investing in Pokemon, when you get so intense about it that you treat collectors like dirt and you, call other people names, or you just tell them we don't care about you, those sorts of things, or you lack empathy for other people, I really struggle with that. Like, I don't think that's good humanity. And I also don't think that that's good for the hobby, right? Like, this should be a place where people can come and feel like they're included, and it's a good community, and it's enjoyable, and it's not frustrating, and there's not people telling them, oh, well, I don't care about you. Get out of my way. I'm making my money over here. And maybe you didn't exactly mean to say that, but that definitely did not come out well. And I think that's frustrating because I do think people have a valid concern right now to be frustrated with the prices of things. And I think it's okay for people to vent about that. I don't think the hobby is in a good state for collectors. Alex really seems to think the hobby's in a good state because there's high demand for it. Great. But he's still kind of thinking mostly along the lines of an investor. I think the product should be readily available. Now you're going to have stuff like this that happens. Maybe Pokemon saw this coming and wanted this to happen. Maybe they didn't. You can sit there and argue all you want about that, but this is not a good norm for the hobby, right? Like a norm should be that you can go down to your local Walmart and get a pack, and that things are just more casual and less intense. And that more kids can afford the cards, and that it's just more casual. I think that's better for the hobby overall. You run the risk too that when you create this kind of negativity and you tell people that you don't care, or to buzz off, or hey, you can't afford this, you're broke or whatever. You run a big risk that you're actually going to turn a lot of people away from the hobby. And it's interesting because investing in Pokemon only works because of the nostalgia that it creates, and because of the fact that people later on want that product that they have these great feelings about previously, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I collect some cards from a period of the hobby that I was not even involved in the hobby, and I still like those. But overall, my interest in Pokemon largely comes from the nostalgia I enjoyed as a kid, right? Like, why would I want to open a Pokemon, 1999 base set booster pack? It's like, well, I opened those as a kid, so it'd be awesome today to open another one. Like, how nostalgic would that feel for me to reopen the same set I opened as a kid? Similarly, if you're storing away Scarlet and Violet booster boxes, and one day the kids that grew up with that, they're now young adults and they have money, yeah, there's probably going to be some nostalgia where they want to go and they want to collect those booster boxes or rip those packs that they experienced as a kid. Maybe they only got a few packs as a kid, and now they have the opportunity to rip a whole booster box. Like, there's a lot of reasons, but having like a healthy ecosystem in the hobby and like generations where everyone's enjoying it and everyone feels included is really good for the overall hobby, collectors wise, game wise, and investment wise. So really, even if you're an investor, you should want collectors to be happy, and you should want them to be able to afford the product and to have to associate good feelings with these sets, I would say. And to add another point to this too, I don't think it's really healthy for the market to see such dramatic gains so quickly. Like, Pokemon investing is supposed to be it's supposed to require time to work, right? Usually you think, the first 2-3 years, it's not really going to gain much, and then it starts to take off. So this whole idea that like you buy a set and it just immediately goes up a lot is not really healthy for the market. And we need things to correct back to the way that they were, where it does take time for your investments to actually work. Like, you shouldn't just be able to buy a product and it double in price instantly, or double in price in 6 months even. Like, I don't think so anyway. Maybe it will with certain really exclusive items like Pokemon Center ETBs or whatever, but at least with like, general booster boxes and ETBs, I don't think that's healthy to see those prices go up so quickly. I think that means that there's a major shortage in the market that Pokemon has to address. Some of the investors right now are happy, but at least for me and like some of the other investors I've talked to, I would prefer to go back to things being a little bit more slow moving and product being more available. So let's jump back into it. I want to watch another clip here.
And that's another life lesson you can kind of take is most of the time outside of your traditional, family, your friends, your close circle, no one cares. No one cares about what you're going through, your struggles, your business, how unaffordable things are, your income. No one cares, right? No one cares that you should be able to work a 40-hour week and afford things.
I'm going to stop it right there. On the one hand, he might be correct. I do think there's a large portion of humanity that is not going to care about what I'm personally going through right now. And maybe he's telling you that just to say, hey, if you're wanting sympathy from the rest of the world, you're not going to get it. That's the tough reality of life. I think that's true. However, I do think that there's probably more people that would care than you think. And a lot of other people can identify with what you're going through. A lot of times when you share a frustration or something that you're going through, there will be other people who are going through the same thing or who have gone through the same thing that can have empathy for you, right? So I think this is a little bit of a sad take on humanity. No, I don't believe that humanity is just like abundantly good. You know, as a Christian, I think that we're all flawed, in desperate need of Jesus. But I think it's a sad take to just be like, hey, no one cares about your problems and what you're going through. And I think it's largely too why we have such like a just political crisis that we've gone through for the past like decade in our country, why we're so incredibly divided on both sides. Like so many politicians have rose to power that don't care about the average person and don't care about what we're dealing with. And it's like, we need to, as people and as humanity, care more about others, right? So it's like, I think it's a more positive message to tell people that, hey, go out there and care for someone else in this state of that the hobby's in, where everyone is frustrated. Find ways to care for others, find ways to help other people feel heard, find ways to help people feel included while they're frustrated. I think that's a better message to give than to just tell them school of hard knocks, life sucks, kid, suck it up, you know? Anyway, next clip.
No one cares that you should have these benefits. No one cares that things should be this way and not that way. Get out there and change the situation. Get out there and work more hours. I shouldn't have to work 50 hours a week. Maybe you shouldn't, but maybe you need to, right? I mean, it's tough love, but life's not fair. Life doesn't work the way you think it should. And sometimes you just got to get out of that mindset and say, hey, this sucks, but this is what I got to do if I want to get to where I want to be. I'll tell you right now, I have been working insane amounts of hours, way more than what I worked at any job I had in the past, even more than what I used to work in my other businesses I've owned. Guys, I've been putting well over 80, 90 hours a week into this business when you take in the content side and the business side of things. And I'm not complaining about it. Don't think this is me complaining. It's what it takes. It's what it takes if you want to make something of yourself in this world, right? The 40-hour-a-week thing, that's the minimum requirement to get by in life. That's if you want to provide yourself, shelter, clothing, running water, keep your house, kind of warm in the winter, kind of cool in the summer, and be able to get by, right? That's the get by lifestyle. If you want more than that, it's going to take more effort than that, right? It's like.
Okay. So I have a lot to say right here. I think America and if you're overseas, you might watch this with a totally different lens. But if you're here in the US, there's definitely a high pressure here to work a lot. And I've really wrestled with this a lot. Like I'm currently single. I'm not married. I would like to be married. But I've wrestled even just with my own personal life with working a full-time job, trying to stay like involved in my church, have some friendships, and people that I do things with, cook healthy meals, go to the gym and exercise, like trying to have a balanced life, going to the grocery store, running errands. Like when you fit all that in your life, I sometimes think that even 40 hours almost feels like a lot when you're doing everything, when you're trying to balance everything. I don't think that it's a balanced life to just live at work all the time. I think there are seasons where God may call us to like really put our nose to the grindstone and work really hard. But I just don't feel like that's supposed to be the norm. I don't think working 50, 60, 80, 90 hours a week, every week is all that healthy. And feel free to drop a comment if you disagree with me. But like, I just think this is a bad take in my mind to tell people, hey, just go out there and work more, especially in the regards to these are Pokemon cards, right? Like it's one thing if your family is not being fed or being provided for, then yeah, I think especially as the man, like if you're a man out there, I do think you have a responsibility. And I know maybe feminists are going to, shoot some negative comments at me. That's fine. But I think as a man, like if you're the man of the household, you do have a a responsibility to provide for your family. So if that's not being met, then you may need to work more, or you may need to go take some schooling on the side, or go to a tech school, or go to college, or some sort of additional education. And again, I think tech schools are awesome, by the way. But you may need to do something to raise your status a little bit so that you can better provide for your family. Or you may need to budget more. Maybe you're spending too much on Pokemon and you don't really even have the job for it. So you may need to pull back to provide for your family. I think that's one of the weight that we have to carry as men, is to make sure that those people that are our dependents are can depend on us, that they're taken care of. Right. So that's one thing, but working a lot more hours just so that you can afford big, expensive stuff and you can buy more Pokemon cards. It's not, I don't think it's the way, guys. You're definitely not going to find satisfaction in your life from that. And it's also going to take you away from relationships that you need to have. And, if you're someone like me who believes in God and has a relationship with God, it's going to take you away from, relationship with God. It's definitely going to probably put a major strain on your marriage. If you're married, if you're not married, it may make it impossible to even find a mate. Like, you can definitely work too much and it be an unhealthy thing. So I think I don't agree with this vice. I get it. If you're going through a hard time, you're struggling to make ends meet, you may have to work harder to get through that season. But telling people to work more to buy Pokemon cards so they can be successful. Yeah. So, those are my takes. In Nostalgia Nomics, Alex has put out a lot of good content over the past year and a half, but recently I do think that he's gotten a little bit more aggressive about things. He's definitely going after collectors and people that are complaining about the state of the hobby. And I think he should be a little bit more empathetic to people's situations and to the normal casual person that's in this hobby. Because at the end of the day, it's a hobby. Most people are just buying these cards for fun. They're ripping them for fun. They might be collecting them with their kids. It's like, we need to have a little more empathy for the fact that this is a frustrating time for people. And I think there's a better way to deliver the messages that he's giving. I also disagree with that take on telling people to invest in these overpriced products right now. And I think he's getting a little bit out of touch because of kind of his mindset towards collectors in the hobby. Like, I think what's happening is he's kind of putting all the negative people in one pot together. But I almost wonder if that's maybe part of why he's doing this. Like, if that's having an effect on his mindset, is that all the kind of negativity, he's like lashing back at it. I don't think that the greatest way to respond to the negativity is to lash back out at it. I think it's much better to have a calm approach and say, okay, why are people negative? Is there valid reasons for it? Is there something I can do to make it better? Is there a response I could have that would improve the hobby? I think these are the questions that we need to be asking. I think the higher you are up in the YouTube ladder and the more influence you have over people, the more important it is that you have that mindset to help others in the hobby right now, honestly. So just my 2 cents. This was a very long-winded video, but I felt like I had a lot to say. I do like you, Alex. I've watched you for a long time. I doubt you'll ever see this video, but I've watched a lot of your content. I've been a little disappointed just to see that, you changing your perspective a little bit. I enjoyed listening to you more during the bear market when you were encouraging people to have faith that this stuff would appreciate in the future, rather than a lot of your takes now where everybody's a Timmy and, it almost seems like anybody that disagrees with you is like, needs to just go work more or something. I don't know. I think you need to watch your takes. I think you need to realize that collectors form the base of this hobby, and I don't think it's wise to just go piss them off for no reason. That's my 2 cents. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What's your thoughts on all this? Let's please keep the comments respectful. I'd prefer no name calling or negativity towards Alex. If you want to call me a name, that's fine. But let's keep the comments respectful. I think we should be able to exchange ideas here, disagree with each other, and do it respectfully. So anyway, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that subscribe button, give me a like, leave a comment, and check out my other videos, guys. I appreciate it. We'll see you later.